I started when I was 8 doing actual community activism. I went to a school board meeting with my parents for a project called LNG, or liquefied natural gas. And my main focus was always about the environment and understanding the environment, because I've always been involved with swimming and sailing, surfing, everything water. I was there. So for me, when I went, this project would affect the places that I would hang out, the community I was around. There were environmental factors that would affect children and elderly with respiratory problems. So for me, this issue became a big problem, so I felt a sense of stewardship, specifically with this project. And then as I got to know my community, I fell absolutely in love with everyone who was there. So I continued with everything I could find. Every project that I would see a problem with, I would stick with, because I had that sense of stewardship. But for every single person, it's different. So for me, it's the environment, but for someone else, their sense of stewardship might be with elderly people or other things, so that everyone has to find that for themselves.
Since the inception in 2000, the Reagan Presidential Foundation Scholars Program has awarded more than $500,000 in scholarships to outstanding high school seniors from Ventura County, California. This program honors the life and legacy of President Ronald Reagan by providing financial assistance to exceptional young leaders. When we review an application, we aren't just looking for students who have excellent grades and SAT scores. We are looking for students who, like President Reagan, are well-rounded and actively make their communities a better place. The first quality we look for is outstanding leadership. In addition to serving as the 40th President of the United States, President Reagan was California's governor from 1967 to 1975 and was elected to serve as the president of the Screen Actors Guild 6 different times.
I had the opportunity to work on Mitt Romney's campaign this past election, as well as Congressman Canseco from Texas's campaign. And in those campaigns, I was able just to see what an example those leaders are, in that they don't lead by telling you what to do or by commanding you to do something, but by really leading by example, which has really affected my own personal leadership in my school. But through the Mitt Romney campaign, I was able to see how a great leader reaches out to those, even those who are below him, who he's trying to help, and serves as an example for those people.
I was an intern for the finance department of the city of Agoura Hills, and first I was tasked with filing 5,000 of the city's business registrations, and that was the most tedious work I've ever done, going through their 5,000 files and matching it up with the businesses, making sure the names are correct. And then my director saw that I had all these accomplishments and tasked me with more things. I was allowed to work with the files. I recorded them for destruction or storage. I input the accounts payable batches. I sent out the checks to different companies like Bank of America, Edison. And finally, the biggest task that I did was I helped create the annual city budget, the $21 million fiscal budget for the city of Agoura Hills.
So I joined youth and government technically as a 7th grader in the Model UN program. I found it just kind of on a fluke, and it turned out to be the best thing in my life. With youth and government, it's a model legislature and court program in high school. So my freshman year, I was in the forum program, which is all of the freshmen. There's a forum senate and a forum assembly. I was in a committee where we created a bill that was put through both houses of the legislature, and unfortunately didn't pass. But then my sophomore year, I was a committee chair, and I was a committee chair again my junior year in the Senate. And then this year, I was on the governor's cabinet, actually, and we got to use Jerry Brown's office, and I met with a bunch of bill sponsors and told them how our youth governor felt about their legislation. And it's a program that just really got me interested in politics and helped me develop my public speaking skills and made me more interested in the world around me and made me want to help others and see how my generation can do that, because there are passionate people, despite what everyone else might say.
It takes great character to be a great leader, and President Reagan had a unique combination of self-confidence and humility that allowed him to work with leaders from across the aisle and across the world, all in the name of freedom.
Development of character is kind of interesting because it's not something you're born with. Influences from outside activities, other events, maybe some certain things that happen in your life, good or bad, that's going to develop your character. So for example, in Boy Scouting, I earned my Eagle Scout 3 years ago now, and growing up through Boy Scouting, I was in Boy Scouting through Tiger Cubs all the way up, till I was 18. And so you learn a lot about your character. You learn what you can do, what you can't do, what you're good at, what you're not good at. And so you grow up, and not only do you learn all those things, you also develop that more. So if you learn maybe you're not good at, being comfortable talking in front of the camera, you go to a radio station or a camera station as a Tiger Cub, a Cub Scout, and you get in front of a camera, and it kind of all builds up. And especially, they always call it a trail to eagle. They compare it to climbing a mountain and, getting all the way to the top. So, and along that way, you develop that character.
With our Kiwanis Key Club at school, one thing that we've done every year is the Senior Citizen Prom, which is we basically put on what a normal prom would be for our high school, except for the elderly in our neighborhoods, at a local convalescent home in downtown Ventura. So we do everything from make decorations and pick a theme and order a band and bring food, and it's really the highlight of their twilight years. And I think I put more time and effort into that than my actual prom, because it is seriously so much fun, and I really enjoyed doing it all 4 years. We just actually had it last week. It was 50s themed, and we brought out all the big stops.
My Gold Award project is a virtual walking program, and it's in correspondence with the school district and Ventura County Healthcare Agency. So as a major problem that I've seen in the country and in our local community is obesity. So I really wanted to kind of catch that and make aware to the people in our community that obesity is a problem.
President Reagan was known as the great communicator.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Widely considered one of America's most articulate political speakers, President Reagan was also an accomplished writer who wrote 2 autobiographies and kept a daily diary while in the White House. Reagan scholars are also excellent communicators.
I created this Teen Life, which is a web show that documents teen adversity, because I really wanted to reach my peers when they were experiencing some of the most difficult things of their life right now. And so what the show does is it features taboo topics in the hope of helping teens who are struggling through them.
Amnesty International is a human rights organization that advocates for people who are oppressed or undergoing atrocities. And it's difficult to start a human rights organization in Ventura, especially in the United States, when there really isn't any experience against that.
Comforts of Home is a foundation that I started in 2010. And basically, what I do, I accept donations of linens from hotels, because early in 2010 I realized that hotels, they kind of use their sheets and their towels for maybe a week and then they throw them away, because people obviously want the freshest linens they can get. So there's all these perfectly good linens going to waste. So I started going around and just kind of accepting these really gently used linens, and I started bringing them to homeless shelters. And I actually started out in Ventura, and from there I branched out to over most of Southern California.
Whether he was saving lives as a lifeguard, giving a speech in defense of teachers, or traveling the country listening to the stories of GE factory workers, President Reagan worked tirelessly throughout his life to make America a better place. Reagan scholars have proven themselves to be just as dedicated to their communities.
National Charity League started it all for me. I've been doing it since 6th grade, and it's opened me up to so many different parts of the community. I've worked with the local food bank, I've worked with the elderly in retirement homes, I've worked with animals, and I've also been able to work at Los Robles Hospital, so I've been able to work with the medical staff there, so it gives me a well-rounded view of our community.
One of the faculty members at my school meets at Vintage Retirement Home, which is right down the street, and every Monday night we'll go hang out with the residents there and just spend some time with them and talk to them. They're always really excited to see young people there, and so I started going with them the summer after my junior year of high school, and we had been going every Monday night since. And you basically just hang out with the residents there, you make some really good friends, and they have a lot of really good life lessons to teach us. So,
The Reagan Presidential Foundation Scholars Program awards a total of $50,000 in scholarships annually. Awards generally range from $2,500 to $10,000 each. If you think you have what it takes to be a Reagan Presidential Foundation Scholar, visit reaganfoundation.org/scholarships.